Yeah, nice shiny down there. That's all down there. We've got speakers in the headrests. Very nice. Another centre one, air cooled. Look, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it is air cooled down there. That's down there. Look, there you go. Secret cubbyhole. I like. Temperature, all that usual stuff. Car, music, charge, navigation, home screen, atmosphere lamp. Oh, wow. Speakers at the top. Oh, head right. The head does touch the ceiling a bit. The roof a bit. That's vanity mirror. No, we've got one light.
So this is a live review. You might have seen me do these before. This is kind of a silly thing we do basically. Right? We get about in real life 10-15 minutes and try not to swear. Honestly, I'm going to try really hard not to swear. This is the new JAECOO E5. Now, I was just chatting to Chris, the product expert. I'm going to bring him in later for all the things that I forget to say. And I was saying to him that sometimes in this job, I have to kind of a little bit pretend to be enthusiastic about some new car from some new brand, when secretly I'm like, I've been gone 6 months, honestly. This is not one of those brands. Here's a fun stat to open this presentation. Last month, in Britain, the 4th best-selling car was a JAECOO. The 4th best-selling car. This is a brand that we had not heard of a year ago. That is extraordinary. I think after MG, we haven't seen a Chinese brand arrive and have such an instant impact in the UK. Although, it was a hybrid, and this is not. This is a pure EV that we're talking about. So can JAECOO have that same instant impact with an electric car that they've had with a petrol hybrid car? We're about to find out. So welcome along to the JAECOO E5. In terms of the sort of Chery cinematic universe, I'm going to try to explain it to you now. So Chery is the parent company. They're over there somewhere. They do their own cars. And then underneath Chery, you've got a Moda, which is sort of a bit more urban, a bit more designy, a bit more techy. Chris is nodding, that's a good sign. And then JAECOO, a bit more rugged, a bit more outdoorsy, focus on space and practicality and dogs. We're going to be talking about dogs a lot for the next 15 or so minutes. You've never heard so many dog-centric features in a car. And actually, that's quite refreshing, because I constantly get people in the comments going, there's not enough EVs for people with dogs. All these giant SUVs, rubbish boot spaces. Bring back a state car, separate comments. Anyway, so, exciting car this, but the emphasis is very much on value. Starting price at £27,500. What is a fairly medium-sized and spacious crossover. That's rather tasty. There's an upper trim level model that goes up to £30,500. And on that top trim car, which again, £30,500, you're looking at stuff like panoramic sunroof, heated and cooled seats, electric tailgate. So this is the pitch, I feel. We're going to give you more space and more kit for less money. That's what they're trying to do here. Design, what do we think about it? Nods of heads? Yeah, that would be my sense as well. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's pretty smart looking. This is of course the electric one, so we've covered up the grille relative to the petrol one. There is a petrol version of this car, so it's not a pure EV, it sits on a kind of multi-energy platform, as it were. I suppose that contributes to the affordability, so I can live with that. I think it's pretty smart looking. Inoffensive, I think is probably a good word. Inoffensive. Although some people at Jaguar Land Rover might be slightly offended at the back end. I'm just saying. There are worse things to look like than a Range Rover Evoque, but I do see it a little bit. But I think it's a smart looking thing. And I like it, I've said this on YouTube a million times, I like it when these crossover SUV things are boxy. Don't try and make your SUV into a coupe. it's not one. I don't want a swoopy roofline. It looks like a sort of child wearing a baseball cap backwards. Just give me a box on wheels where I can put my stuff in. That really is the emphasis with this car. Just something you can chuck all your stuff in and go on an adventure. One exterior feature that I found out about yesterday, I think is quite fun. There are speakers down here for what they call camping mode, and the idea is not that it kind of emits a sort of like a sort of whirring noise to alert pedestrians. I think it does that as well, but it's to play music at your campsite. This is quite fun, isn't it? I like that. Let's do a little bit of, actually let's talk about this boot, because again, dog stuff, I mean you can see that JAECOO are really leaning into this because, hello, look at that, that's quite good, isn't it? You get I'd say a large dog or medium-sized bad child in there. Don't do that. Actually, I immediately regret saying that. That's a bit dark for this time on a Sunday morning, isn't it? But it's a really good, useful boot space. Flat floor, big boxy opening. They've thought about it. I like that. Let's talk about some specs. So, single battery. 61 kilowatt hour, lithium iron phosphate, 248 miles WLTP range, sufficient, nothing extraordinary, but again at the price point you're not looking at 300 plus miles. But most of you who have driven and owned EVs know that actually, for me personally, like sort of 250 is kind of the magic number. Every now and then I'll drive to the production office in Bristol, I live in North London, and it's 110 miles each way. Add to that winter range drop off, and 250 is the magic number for me. And by the way, that's 6 hours of driving on UK motorways. I don't want to do any more driving than that without stopping, quite frankly. So I'm pretty happy with that. Single motor front wheel drive, 207 brake horsepower. Do you remember when that was fast? I used to have a Golf GTI with 200 horsepower, and that was a hot hatchback. This is a family crossover, and we'll do 0 to 60 in 7 and a bit seconds. The times we live in, eh? I mean, there's something on the MG stand with 700 horsepower. It's just absurd. Anyway, I digress. Plenty of performance for this type of car. I don't want any more power than that in this type of car, because it would just eat into your range, and it would make it too fast, and then you'd have to ruin the suspension. Less is more in terms of horsepower with a car like this. Let's have a little nosy inside then. A couple of things worth noting. Dogs, we're back to dogs. The seats have been upholstered in a special scratch-proof material. Isn't that nice? They have actually decked out the seats in such a way that your dog cannot possibly ruin them, which is quite nice. Looks pretty smart in here. Very, very spacious. That's again the emphasis, just lots of room. Oh, I've got some tunes playing in here. I'm going to turn that down a bit. There we go. So I can tell that the heated steering wheel is on, which is a nice feature to have. I had to have this explained to me recently, why it's a good thing to have heated wheel and heated seats in an electric car. Because of course it is so much more efficient of a way to warm yourself up than using the heater. Really obvious if you think about it, because instead of heating all the air particles inside the car, you're just heating the particles in your arse, basically, aren't you? Right? There's less of them, even if you have, anyway. So it's always worth, I think, spending a little bit of extra money on heated seats and heated steering wheel in an EV, because it's going to help your range. There you go, fun fact. Very smart in here. We've got a big old touchscreen, not a huge amount in the way of buttons. I am happy to see we've got proper window switches, proper mirror switches. The drive selector is an actual drive selector. You don't have to flick something on the touchscreen. Imagine doing that in a car. Goodness me. And the software looks pretty user-friendly. It's a big screen. It's very kind of smartphone-y. I had a little play around with this thing yesterday, and I didn't find it especially confusing to use, and I'm a bit of a Luddite these days. We do this thing on the Friday of these shows, when all the exhibitors are coming in and like frantically building their stands, and me and Imogen will be like, oh, we've not seen one of those before, can we borrow it for 30 minutes and film something? They're like, no! And then we steal it anyway. So yeah, we're going to film a little something with this at some point during the weekend. Smart looking interior, lots of space. How's the back? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. This is, I've realised that my sort of legacy, if I have one, will be as a unit of measurement for back seat space. That's what I am. I'm not a human being anymore. I'm just an object that you test rear seat space with. Anyway, very impressed. Very impressed with that. That's a really good amount of room. Because it's a multi-energy platform and it's not a bespoke EV chassis, I'm finding that my feet are a little bit higher. There's just less room to put a battery, isn't there, when the car wasn't designed exclusively for electric vehicles. So, not too bad. If it was a bespoke EV, I'd have a tiny bit more room back here, but it'd probably cost a bit more money. These are the trade-offs. Lovely to have this big panoramic roof. You just don't expect something like this in a car of this price point. That is nice. Overall, pretty impressed. I have to say, you know, it's been so interesting watching this tidal wave of new Chinese brands coming into the UK and trying all these different strategies in order to try and capture our interest. And you've got certain brands who kind of go, well, actually, we've got the cleverest battery, we have the most advanced battery tech, and we charge the fastest. And it is impressive that a lot of consumers don't really care, or just don't know enough about electric cars to be able to care. But this is a very simple, clear pitch. More space, more stuff, less money. And that's something that a lot of people can get behind, which is why, again, 4th best-selling car in the UK last month was a JAECOO. So I'm sort of cautiously optimistic for their future. I think that these guys are going to be around for a long time, and I suspect that this thing, just with that undeniable price point, is going to be fairly popular. I'm looking forward to driving it. I don't know what it handles like because I've not driven it yet. I will say that I've had mates who've tested this car and also tested the big one, the JAECOO 7, the hybrid. And the big criticism of the big one, which came first, was the ride. They said it was a bit firm. And then they drove this and they said it's immediately better, which is another thing you get with Chinese brands. Constant feedback, constant tweaking and fetting. Oh, we got that slightly wrong. Well, we fixed it. There you go. Changed it, sorted, done. And that's not something that a lot of legacy car brands have the agility to do. If you're VW, and for example, you design an awful interface that's infuriating to use, you sort of just have to wear it for 6 years until the next product cycle. And that is not something that these brands are hamstrung by. They just seem to have this agility to kind of go, whoop, didn't like it, it's gone. There you go, sorted. Now then, I'd like to take some questions if you have any about this car. I'm going to bring in Chris, who's the product expert. Chris, do come and join me. First of all, Chris, how did I do? Would you rate my performance out of 10? Did I do okay?
Your performance was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The product expert's not available, so you got me instead.
Oh, yeah. Do your best impression of a product expert and tell me, is there anything I missed? Is there any features that you're especially proud of with this car?
A feature I found out the other day is got an electrically operated flat for the
a little bit closer to your mouth.
Sorry, electrically operated flat for the charger. So just press this, pops open, and there's a little button here to pop in charge.
Premium.
Yeah, I know. Very impressive. You mentioned about the styling being similar to maybe JLR, for example. There's a reason for that. We have Chery have a 50-50 partnership with JLR in China, built cars for JLR in China. So of course, naturally they're going to share some designs and some design cues and so on. So yes, it has got some of those design cues, and we're very proud of that. You know, that's really good. And the constant feedback thing. As a brand, we are constantly looking for customer feedback, so we will make changes very, very quickly. We put our cars through, we give all of our cars to Thatcher to look at everything from insurance ratings to crash repairs and things like that. And that's all fed back, and literally things have changed in days. There was one example on the JAECOO 7 where they suggested that if we made the front bumper a 3-piece bumper and it did have an accident, it would be better to repair. The factory made the changes in a weekend.
And for everyone listening, we can't understate how different that is to how your average legacy car brand operates.
Yeah, very much so. I've been very fortunate to work for some amazing brands, and I landed here 6 months ago, and I've never worked with anything so incredibly fast. The pace of change, the feedback that we get from our customers, the way that we're launching new cars all the time, it's incredible. Last month was fantastic for us as a brand, and I think that will continue. And I truly believe, as a massive EV fan, that this will be, I think, one of our best sellers.
I think so too. I'm interested to know, as an industry insider, as a man who's worked for various brands, what else can you tell us about how these Chinese companies operate differently? Because for those not aware, this is not a new company. Chery is the 4th biggest brand in China. They sell more cars globally than BMW do, so they're not new to this. Yeah, give us some insight, Chris, into just how differently these brands operate and how what advantages do they have?
I think it's the speed of change because of the size and what they who they work with. You know, so of course, you know, we don't make every component ourselves, but we work with some of the big companies like Bosch, Valeo, some of the big tyre brands, companies and so on. And because of the size of the business and the amount of stuff we're buying, you know, we can work very quickly. You mentioned about the interface in the vehicle. You know, all of our interfaces use the 8155 processor, the Snapdragon processor, which is kind of going into a lot of cars now, but we've been putting it in our cars for many, many years. You know, and when you look at the stats on that, you know, boots up in 0.4 of a second, it can run 30 different things, operations in one go. And that's what we do in our cars, isn't it? So, you know, if we're doing all of that stuff, we want the best, you know, best equipment. And because we're buying so much of it and we're using so much of it, you know, we're the biggest exporter, or Chery, the biggest exporter of cars, and have been for 22 years out of China. You know, it means we build a lot of cars and sell a lot of cars. So, yeah, the rate of change, I've never seen anything so fast. I had a week off work a few weeks back. Felt like I had about 6 months off work. I came back and it was like, what's going on, you know?
And sometimes I do sympathise with you guys in the UK, because you are just like having bombs dropped on you every few moments. Like sometimes you speak to brands for some of these Chinese, for the Chinese brand. And again, just to give you a sense of how it normally works, if it's a legacy European brand, it's like, here's a teasy photo of it's like a silhouette sort of in black, and we're going to make this car in 5 years. And then 2 years later, it's like, here's a concept on a stand at a motor show, and then a year after that, here's the car. You can film with it in a studio, and then 2 years after that, you can drive it now. These guys, they just fall out of the sky, finished. Like this car, this is the first time we're seeing it, and the first time that you can test drive it here today.
Yes,
at the same time. That's really, really unusual. So yeah, the speed, the agility. We've got a couple of minutes left. Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? Hello.
Is there a dog mode for the car?
Yes,
I missed one of the dog features. I thought I'd exhausted all the dog stuff. Chris, talk about dog mode.
Yeah, dog mode. You put it in dog mode, and when you lock the car, it will shut the windows. It will put the air conditioning on. It will shut off the buttons, so just in case your dog does make it to the front, start operating the unlock button and the hazard lights going, I'm locked in here, I'm locked in here. And it will put it on the screen as well and say, it's all right, I'm okay, and a big picture of a dog and so on there. So yes, it does have a dog mode.
I hadn't thought about the fact that dog mode would also benefit from switching the buttons on.
No, that's unethical. It's the front's big enough for cables.
There is a front,
yes,
for cables.
Yes.
Lovely.
Cables.
Cool.
Front.
Any more questions? Yes.
Aftermarket sales though. So if I had to replace my bumper as a new brand, what's the availability of products for repairs?
It's a great question.
Aftermarket. And I can answer that with confidence. Just so you know, warranty 7 years and 7 years 100,000 miles. Battery warranty 8 years 100,000 miles. RAC cover for 3 years, up to 7 years if you have service with us in our network. We've got a network of 86 dealers now from Motor JAECOO. Going to be around about 100 by the end of the year, and we have a big tie-up with DHL, who bring in all of our parts. Fast-moving parts will be brought in pretty much on a daily basis and shipped out to our sites. Body panels, front bumpers, things like that. You know, a couple of days from China, brought into one of the big distribution warehouses by DHL's planes, and then head out to body shops and the service network.
Good question, good answer, right? The dealer network part of that is quite nice as well. You do sort of just want physical places within the country that you can take into if something breaks, so it's good to have. Question over here?
Yes, I wanted to know about tyre pressure.
Absolutely. Tyre pressure monitoring, I take that to given, yeah?
Yeah, that's a given now.
Lovely.
I think it's, isn't it a standard or legislation on cars built now, I think?
I certainly, having the sensors, I don't know having the exact PSI.
Yeah, it's got the exact PSI on it. The car has essentially level 2 ADAS on the car as well. So, adaptive cruise control, intelligent cruise assist to take over steering on the motorway and so on. It's not hands-off driving, of course. It will shout at you after about 10 seconds, but has everything you'd expect.
Fantastic. Closing questions? Excellent. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That was a delight. Guys, come and sit in it. Prod it, poke it. That's the point of these shows. You get to actually try them yourself. Thanks for listening. Thank you very much. Cheers.